I'm currently vacationing in Greece, and I wanted to do a bit of a travel vlog here as well, just like I did in India, because I had so much fun making and editing that. Today I arrived on the island of Hydra after spending a few days on Milos, and I'm so excited. Milos was so cool. I've never been there before. I've been to Greece just once before, and I've spent mostly a lot of time in Athens and Santorini. But yeah, so went to Milos, and it was a really cool island, lots of beaches, highly recommend if you want to go beach hopping. And I'm so excited to be in Hydra now. I was here last year as well, but only for a few hours, and I'm spending a couple days here now. I think this is my favorite of the Greek islands so far that I've been to, which right now is only 4, so not that many, but I do really love it here. Hydra is a pretty small island, very close to Athens, and there are no cars. The only kind of transportation is by walking and donkeys. And just got like a really small kind of central town, and there's a lot of hiking, not a lot, but there's some hiking you can do. There's not really too many beaches. I think there's a couple small ones, but it's not known for its beaches, but a really gorgeous view of the water from the main sort of port town, as well as alongside where you can hike. And yeah, I'm so excited to spend more time here because I felt like the last time we just like flew through the like 5 or 6 hours we had on this island. This has been a bit of a busy trip. I'm here for my sister's birthday. We hung out with her in Milos for a bit, and then we kind of parted ways, so we're just in Hydra for a little while, and then unfortunately we're going home. So I haven't had too much time to read. The last few days were really busy. We were doing some beach hopping and kind of hanging around in one of the main towns in Milos. Most of the reading that I've done so far has been on the ferry to Hydra, as well as on the flight to Greece in general. But I do want to talk about a little bit of what I've read, what I've started reading, what I hope to finish by the end of the trip, probably mostly on the airport or in the airport. Yesterday I finished reading The Islands by Dionne Irving. This is one of the books longlisted for the Giller Prize. It's a short story collection that's largely about immigrant Jamaican women who live all around the world right now. There is one story from a man's perspective, but otherwise it is all told from women's perspectives, and many of them live in Canada, the States, some in Europe, and I really liked the short story collection. A lot of the stories had themes around home, belonging, colonialism, and loss woven throughout them, and they were really compelling to read. Like, they were very easy reads, and none of them were unenjoyable to read. None of them like kind of dragged or were boring, and there were a few that stood out to me. I think Canal was probably one of my favorites, about a woman who returns back to Panama where she grew up with her family after the death of her nanny there, and kind of tries to reconcile with her past and some of the tragedies that happened there, as well as the kind of complicated relationship she had with her mother and her nanny. I also really liked the story An American Idea of Fun, about a young girl who gets to go to live in France for the summer with her family, friends of family, like very rich friends of family there, and she gets into, as well, she's pursued in a sort of inappropriate way by an older man. I really enjoyed reading about her like experiences in France, and I found that while a lot of the stories did have like an element of the past to them, I think this might have been one of the few that was told from more or less the present. It kind of flashes to the future as well, but I think it was told more or less in the present by a younger narrator, and that was interesting as well. I felt like most of the voices in these short stories were pretty distinct, and although there were some reviews that kind of criticized the short stories for being a bit repetitive, I didn't find it to be that way at all. I think the one possibly repetitive thing is that a lot of the stories had at best a bittersweet ending, and most of them were a little bit sad. A lot of them did deal with loss, specifically of home, of family, or a partner. And so even the ones that had slightly more positive ending, there was still something in there that screamed of that loss, and that kind of resonated, or yeah, was felt throughout the story. So I don't know that any of them really truly had any happy endings, and some that's definitely true to life, but it would have been maybe interesting to have some that ended on a bit more of a positive note, and I can see why some people didn't love that. But I don't find that a lot of the characters felt too repetitive despite having similar themes in their lives. That's the only book I've finished so far. I did also start reading On the Nature of Things by Lucretius. This was recommended to me by a friend after he watched my video on death and dying. Lucretius was a Latin poet slash kind of philosopher. I don't know if he's really considered that, but I think this poem does follow the Epicurean philosophy, and I think it is a little bit philosophical in itself as well from what I've read so far. And in it, I think it does have a lot of its own sort of materialist philosophy about how nature is really the ultimate thing, that religion is a little bit pointless, that we really just need to take into account the fact that we have this life and that we shouldn't really be fearing death, because after death, like his whole thing was we shouldn't really be afraid to die because there is no hell, there is no sort of reward or punishment after we live. There is simply nothing, which unfortunately that is honestly what scares me a lot, that there's like no consciousness after death, but I'm still interested in reading more of this. I don't know that it will rid me of my fear personally, but I am really enjoying it so far. I've been a little bit nervous to start this one just because this is a really old text. I mean, obviously it's translated and I think it's made to be read in a slightly more modern way for modern people now. But yeah, I don't know, something about really old texts really intimidates me because I never really studied them in school. I didn't read a lot of them and I always feel like I won't fully get it. But there are a lot of footnotes, and the introduction in this book was also really helpful, kind of going over Epicurean philosophy and Lucretius's own sort of writing and poetry. I also find it really interesting that this talks very scientifically about how our bodies are made of atoms. I didn't realize that the existence of atoms was kind of known. I know it wasn't proven until much later, but it was definitely talked about in Greek and Latin writing. So that's really interesting. I don't know, something about atoms always makes me feel like this is such a much newer scientific discovery, but there was at least the idea and conception of it from such a long time ago. So some of this feels much more advanced than I realized like anything written in this era could be. I also partially wanted to read this one here in Greece because I thought Lucretius was a Greek poet or philosopher initially, and I was a little embarrassed to find out that he was a Latin poet. So a little embarrassing on my part, but still cool to read here, still from the ancient world. I hope to finish this one at some point here. I'm not sure how much more time I will have to read, but I'm looking forward to getting further into it. The last book I hope to get to at some point is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, and I'm reading this for my book club. I've read the book Flappy a few times and I don't fully know how to describe this book, and I haven't started it yet, so I won't really, except I know it takes place over about 500 years, beginning on Vancouver Island, which is also very exciting to me because it's very close to where I live right now, all the way to a colony on the moon. And I think of course there will be connections made between 1912 on Vancouver Island and 500 years later on the moon, but I'm not entirely sure what else to say about this book yet. I do hope to start it because I do meet with my reading group in, I think, less than 2 weeks now, so I would like to, I don't know, get a move on this. All right, I hope to check in at least one more time before I leave Greece. Otherwise, I will probably check in once I get home, depending on how much time I have here to do so. I think today my boyfriend and I are just gonna kind of walk around the main town, maybe do like a mini sort of hike that we did the first time we were here. And then tomorrow we're gonna do a larger hike across the island, which I am so excited for. Well, that's all for now, and I will check in later in this video. I'm still in Greece and I haven't done that much more reading, but I went on a really cool hike today that I want to talk about. Hydra is a pretty small island, largely with one main port town, but there are other areas there. There are a few other beaches, there's a few other coasts, and a lot of other mountains and hills to climb up. Today we were going to take a water taxi to the other side of the island and then just hike through the hills and hike back kind of to the main town, but it was really windy and the waves were kind of large, so the water taxis did not want to take us there. We decided instead to just kind of go in that direction anyway and just sort of walk until we felt like kind of coming back, and not really loop back, but just sort of a straight walk back eventually. And it was a really cool hike. We climbed up really high, like it felt for a while that there just wouldn't really be sort of like a straight sort of like, I don't know, top to the hill or mountain that we were kind of on. It just felt like we were gonna keep going up for a while. But it did eventually kind of straighten out, and at that point, yeah, we just kept walking further. There were a lot of churches and monasteries on our way, and the views from the top of the water, you couldn't really see the town from where we were until we were kind of heading back, although once we did see that, it was also really beautiful. But yeah, the views were just stunning, and I feel kind of bad I didn't really get any videos of a lot of this hike. I was taking some pictures, but mostly I was just, I don't know, enjoying it. I tried to sort of take some videos later on that you'll hopefully see in this video of the mountains to show kind of like how high they might be, but I didn't really get a view from up there to below. But super, super lovely views. The water is such a beautiful blue color, and it just made me so happy to be there. We just did a lot of walking. There are quite a few monasteries and churches to see there on the way, and not a whole lot else, but there was sort of like a small group of houses, which is really interesting because they were really far from the main town and really high up, and there wasn't a lot around like near them besides one monastery. And there's, I guess, another sort of like path that we didn't take back somewhere else, or maybe there was a little bit more something, but yeah, it was very far from the actual port of Hydra. And they looked pretty old. I was like, does someone still even live there? But yeah, there was a donkey tied up outside the house. I saw some like beer cans and just a few other things that made it look like it was definitely a still lived in house, at least one of them, but presumably all like couple of them that were there. And I think about this a lot when I travel, just about like such different lives that people lead, because I can't imagine living so isolated away from, I mean, Hydra's already a very small island. There's about 2,000 people living there, probably more people during tourist season, but yeah, it's not a lot. And to live so far from even that kind of small, already fairly isolated-ish spot is wild to me. But it's also really interesting to think about like the past lives that people have led there. Like these houses have been around for a long time. These monasteries like up on these hills have been around for a long time. People have been going up there for decades, if not, I mean, surely centuries even. And that's, I don't know, that's so cool for me to think about. Just that I will never live all these different lives. Not that I necessarily want to live some of them. I mean, I love the idea of possibly living on Hydra, but I would definitely be kind of in the main area. I would not want to be climbing, even with a donkey or anything, up these hills every day or every week to go get groceries. But yeah, just thinking of it, I don't know if anyone else does this. It's just something like, I mean, I think about it a lot regularly in my life, even in the city I live in, but more so when I'm traveling as well. And to bring it back to reading, maybe that's why I really enjoy reading, and especially like literary fiction, and kind of just living through other people's lives, because I won't be in so many countries. I won't be friends with so many people, or have like a different kind of family or relationship. And yeah, I don't know, but you can just do it through the books, I guess. And that's just, I don't know, it's so fun for me. And I think it gets emphasized when I'm traveling like this. But yeah, no reading update. I have not read since the last video. I honestly probably won't read too much while on Hydra, but we are heading back tomorrow evening, and then unfortunately leaving Greece altogether, which I'm pretty sad about. Felt like this vacation has passed by so quickly, and they always feel like that for sure, but this one was only a week long, so it actually was not that long of one. But I'll probably read quite a bit on the ferries and on the plane rides back home, so I will, I'm sure, check in when I get back to Canada. I'm home from Greece now, and I just wanted to give a little update about the end of my trip. I didn't end up finishing any more books. I am almost done on The Nature of Things by Lucretius, but not quite there, so I think I might do an October wrap-up video to talk about everything that I've read this month. I kind of want to start maybe doing those regularly, and so I'll probably talk about it then once I've actually finished and I've had some more time to sit with it, because it is a pretty big book. I mean, it's not like big, but there's a lot, and I feel like my thoughts on it are not quite gathered. One thing I do want to talk about is what I did on the last day, my time on Hydra, and that is going to the Hydra book club. My partner and I had been seeing these posters all over the town for, like 2 days we were there, and so I decided to finally check it out. Not really sure what it was, because it just called a book club. We weren't sure if it was some sort of like actual book club where people would meet, discuss books, but it seemed a little bit strange because it says that it's open from like 12 to 4 and then 7:30 to 9:30. So it just seemed like really broad hours and also every day. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. It ended up being kind of a book curation, book sale with a bit of an art exposition. There were these like drapes kind of hanging all over. I don't know what the right word for them. They're not posters, but they did have art on them. They're essentially drapes hanging all over the room. And it was really cool. It is a project focusing on art and literature, and yeah, it is a book sale. So my partner and I bought possibly too many books, but there were a lot of really good ones there. Some older, newer editions alike, Greek and other authors alike. So there's a lot to go through, and the curator was really friendly. We spoke with him for quite a while. So I just wanted to quickly show some of the books I bought there, and I haven't read them yet, of course. And I'm honestly not sure where to start because they all sound so good. The first book is 3 Summers by Margarita Liberacki. This is a story about 3 sisters growing up near Athens around the time of World War II and kind of them growing up over the course of 3 summers as they, I don't know, figure out how to be adults. They're keeping some secrets, falling in love, and it just sounds like a really fun story over the course of 3 years. This next one is Rien ne va plus by Margarita Kupanu. It has a French title, but it is not in French, and I believe this is a Greek author. This is a story about a couple that gets divorced. After some years of marriage, there is infidelity and some other big problems in their relationship. And this is a story told from both perspectives. I mean, I believe the story is told like from one perspective and then it ends and then from the other. So you kind of get the 2 dual perspectives. And I'm very interested in reading that. I think this is one of the first ones I picked up that I was like, huh. Sounds pretty cool. This one is Peel Me a Lotus by Charmaine Clift. This is a sort of memoir by the author about her and her family moving from London to Hydra in the 50s. They stayed there for almost a decade and had to deal with sort of difficulties of raising a family, as well as being kind of enmeshed into Hydra's very artistic and bohemian community of painters and poets, writers, other artists. Before going to Hydra for the first time, I did look up and I did see that it was quite a hub for artists, including Leonard Cohen and Sophia Loren, who would come to the island or live there. And so I'm really interested in how that sort of life was like by people who were there, because I don't think it's quite the same anymore, and I think the Hydra Book Club might be trying to kind of change that, but the island is definitely known for having that history, and so yeah, I'd like to learn more about it. Theater for Dreamers by Polly Sampson. This is about an 18-year-old who comes to Hydra in 1960 and also gets really swept up in the sort of artistic world there. I think this is a very carefree, escapist kind of summer novel about life on Hydra, but this novel at the back does say that nothing can last forever, so I'm really curious as to what this will end up culminating into. And the last thing we picked up is Utopia, and this is the first issue of the journal put out by the Hydra Book Club. It features art and writing from contributors around Greece and the rest of the world, and I flipped through it a bit. I haven't really read too much yet, but I'm very excited. A lot of the sort of artsy drapes we saw in the room there are in this book as well, so I'm really happy about that because they were really beautiful, a lot of them. And yeah, I'm excited to read more. It's across some different languages as well. I think there will be some Greek writing, English, maybe some other languages, so that'll be interesting. I don't read Greek, but maybe I'll find a way to translate. Yeah, I don't know, it's just really cool that this journal was put out, and I hope it becomes a yearly thing. Hope to maybe return to Hydra sometime in the near future when this gets put on again, to maybe pick up something like this again, but we'll see. If you happen to find yourself in Greece, or specifically Hydra, up until October 22nd, this book club exhibition is ongoing until then. And I have a feeling it probably happens yearly around the same time. This is the 3rd year it was running. I guess my partner and I missed it when we were there last year because we were there around the same time. So I don't know if we were only on the island for 6 or 7 hours. So maybe that's partially why we just didn't notice the posters, or I'm not sure, but I'm really glad we caught it this year. But yeah, that's the end of my vacation. I implore everyone to go check out Hydra if they ever have a chance to. Milos as well was such a beautiful island. They were both really lovely to visit and spend some time on. I think it's really hard traveling to places that are kind of a favorite place because, I don't know, I do love to travel and there are a lot of other places I want to see, but I know I would love the chance to go back to Hydra again next year if I could. It was a bit sad to leave for sure, but I did have some friends visit over this Thanksgiving long weekend, so that kind of helped to, I don't know, take away from the sometimes sadness you might feel from traveling, because it was a lot of fun seeing them and we did do a lot of great things together as well now that I'm back in the city. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really do love making these travel vlogs and kind of putting them together. It is really fun and it's sort of a nice memory for me as well of the trip, but I hope you enjoy seeing them too. Let me know if you've traveled anywhere lately, if there's an author from a country you love traveling to that you enjoy reading, any new books you've been excited to check out, or if any of these interest you, I'd love to hear about it. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you'd like, and I will catch you in the next one.